Good afternoon and welcome to another interview with the wholesome, royalish pair, Meghan Markle and Harry Meghan Markle Windsor. I'm Dr. Cobalt Jackson, and we had to get you immediately back in because there's been so much going on in Loonyland recently, and not all of it's been that successful.
Nice.
But let's start off with you, Meghan, and your very recent chat with the queen of the unendurably bland interview, Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, it was a great time. I could just go on there and be myself. I didn't have to pander to people who want me to be this or be that. I could just be natural.
Oh, that was you being natural?
Yeah, I felt in really good spirits, I felt animated.
What you saw was the Meghan that I live with at home. As long as I'm behaving myself. Right, Meghan?
Yeah.
There's much to discuss about your appearance on the show, but I'd like to start off with the prank that you played with the microphone and the clearly staged market vendors outside.
Yeah, when Ellen was telling me what I've got to say, oh my God, it was so funny.
Hands down, the funniest thing I've seen on television for the last 50 years.
Yeah, it was great fun, but it was challenging too, because I had to make a complete fool of myself.
Oh, I would have assumed you were used to it by now.
Oh, it takes a little bit longer than that, actually. Give it a couple of years, she'll be used to it. Although it is really hard when people don't take you seriously.
Oh, on that note, during this side-splittingly hilarious prank, you squatted, sang silly songs, told a joke without a punchline, claimed to have healing crystals, chanted, asked the vendor if they could feel your powers, drank milk from a baby's bottle, ate like a chipmunk, as well as shoved a whole cracker topped with spicy salsa into your mouth.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Well, I've got a question here from Mrs. Glenda Blender, whose favourite song is Return to Sender, and she asks simply, why do you not give up your Duchess title if you wish to behave with the typical Hollywood buffoonery that is the staple of all talentless, third-rate, inauthentic and pointless celebrities?
My Meghan conducts herself with class. She's just being natural. She's just being fun. She's just being happy. And some people just can't bear to see it.
Oh, no, I'll never be giving up my Duchess title. You'd have to pry that from my cold, dead hands. But I think Glenda is misunderstanding the situation slightly, The reason that royals, like us, have a bad name is because we're usually so stuffy.
And rigid observers of convention.
Yes, but what would be the point of them if they weren't? If all royalty were to embrace common crassness and classless antics, how could they expect to preserve their role in society?
Look, my Meghan's helping to carve out a new role.
That's right. We need to modernize.
Yes, but Glenda, perhaps preempting your response, takes issue with that and says that without the stuffy convention you both so obviously deplore, royalty wouldn't symbolise anything of value and would instead be merely an undeserving elite revelling in opulence and hypocrisy, very much like the modern-day celebrity.
Yeah, I don't think there is such a stark dichotomy there.
Yeah, there's no such stark Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can massage the royal perception, to include fun and a modern outlook, as well as retaining, the elegance and dignity of the status.
Do you not think that by believing you can single-handedly redefine the role of royalty, whilst lining your own pockets, not carrying out any royal engagements, and living in luxury thousands of miles away from London, that you are in danger of slipping into the bubbly footspa of narcissism? You told a story whilst you were on Ellen about how you used to have to climb through the trunk window of one of your cars to scramble through to the front seat.
Yeah, I used to have to climb through the window at the back of the car so I could, get to the front seat because the key on the driver's door was no longer working.
You were a lot more animated when you told this story on Ellen's show.
That's because she had an audience. My Meghan knows how to tailor her performance.
Yeah, and then when I got home, I'd have to clamber back over the seats and exit out through the trunk window. Hey, things weren't easy. I had it hard. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Your sister, Meghan, is claiming that you're lying about this, and that in reality your father bought you a brand new 4x4.
Look, my family have some access to grind, right? So I just rise above their petty attacks.
Yes, Meghan, but are you potentially overvaluing and indeed truffle dusting your questionable reputation in matters of honesty?
Give me one thing that Meghan's not been honest about.
I could probably give you a list, Meghan, but I don't think we need to look much further than claiming that Archbishop Justin Welby had wed you both in a private ceremony days before your big publicly broadcasted event.
Yeah, and it was so beautiful. It was, it was sacred and special.
Yet Archbishop Welby insists that it did not happen.
Some recollections may vary.
Quite. Mrs. Candice Cyanide from a town near Strathclyde asks why you, Meghan, sorry you're being left out of this a bit, Harry.
Not a problem.
And Mrs. Cyanide wants to know how you expect anyone to believe the obviously orchestrated string of banalities and untruths that thread the fabric of your performance.
Look, there's absolutely nothing orchestrated about it at all, We just want to
use our positions of influence as granted to us by Time magazine
to bring about the changes we so desperately need to achieve equity in the economic, political, and the legal domains.
By pointing out inequities and reshaping gender roles, showing the softer side of masculinity.
And the stronger side of femininity, demanding paid parental leave for all.
And a no-tolerance approach to hate speech.
Whilst forcibly combating misinformation at the educational level, in an honest way.
So no, Mrs. Cyanide from some place outside Strathclyde.
There's absolutely nothing orchestrated
about our performance.
At all.
A question for you, Meghan. Mrs. Helen Glaxon, a Saxon from Paxton, would like to know whether if by constantly mentioning the modest circumstances of your childhood in the letter you wrote to Congress, you have inadvertently played into the hands of those claiming you only married Harry for the money and fame.
Well, how ridiculous. I mean, probably have got to ask the question nowadays because of all the rampant racism and sexism out there. Trying to keep me down, accusing me of things. But to be perfectly honest, I haven't really got the time for them, I mean, it's absolutely nothing to do with money or fame. I mean, look at him. He's got the lot,
You make a very compelling case, Meghan. And in a similar vein to Helen's question, Mr. Morris Minor would like to know why the tone of your letter to Congress has a sagely philosophical feel, quite in contrast to your real-life persona as an underwhelming actress and a know-it-all busybody.
Look, I think Morris needs to pipe down. Meghan's acting isn't underwhelming. It's purposefully understated.
I think that
Morris's opinion is of minor significance.
Don't interrupt me, H.
Oh, sorry, of course.
But Harry was right about saying that my performances are purposefully understated, I don't want to explode with such an amazing performance that I cast a shadow over all of my co-stars.
Oh, and I know for certain that most of our viewers at home think that you're a complete actress, Meghan, through and through.
Oh, my God.
We knew we could count on the people.
So you, Meghan, purposefully deliver ghoulishly awful acting performances so as to not overshadow your co-stars.
That's right.
I mean, she makes me want to cry, she does. She really does. It's amazing.
Oh, and it conveniently upgrades what was previously considered a lack of skill into a high-minded moral righteousness. Do you ever get concerned, Meghan, that you're trapped inside the Tupperware box of narcissism? There have been some malicious rumours circulating, Meghan, about you misleading the court about your involvement in the unauthorised biography of you and Prince Harry.
No, it doesn't look good.
Rumours that were somewhat validated when you apologised for misleading the court about information supplied to Omid Scooby and Carolyn Durant, the authors of Finding Freedom.
Look, I was unaware because of my pregnancy, right? And because of the overall love I have for people, So therefore I forgot to mention that Jason did provide some details to the authors, but only only in his capacity as communications secretary.
Yeah, it wasn't us. It was one of our dim-witted minions.
Which leads us nicely onto a question from Maureen Remington from Leamington Spa, who says, "Oh, I bet it's nice to have a communications secretary, but still be able to claim victimhood."
Yeah, well, this'll be you, Maureen Remington from Leamington Spa.
Well, I mean, what can I say?
Oh, no, well, Skaggs.
People want to be friends with me, I never asked for this following, right? I never sought to be worshipped. It just kind of happened, didn't it, Harry? Just kind of happened.
I feel more famous since I met Meg.
Meghan.
Pookie.
Meghan.
No, Meghan.
You okay? Because a Mr. Graham Gangrene from the mean streets of Cheam asks, why did your statement not address the advice that your communications secretary gave in his email? That being that you should not ask your friends to directly engage with the authors of Finding Freedom, so that we could hand on heart say that they had no access, just in case we get into difficult territory.
Why would I mention that?
Oh, she might as well admit to being the second gunman on the grassy knoll.
Well, I think the point Mr. Gangrene is trying to make is that the tone of the email exchange between you and your communications secretary implied, well, two things. One, that you were fully aware that your staff were liaising with the authors of Finding Freedom. And two, that the insincere tactics he was suggesting you employ would be something you were completely comfortable with.
I mean, how could Mr. Gangrene think that? I mean, my Meghan has a heart of gold and morals of steel. I mean, she would never do anything untoward.
Yeah, that's right.
And besides, what was in the email that was insincere?
Well, I think the implication is that by not allowing your friends to communicate directly with the authors, that you, as Brand Sussex, can say hand on heart that you didn't allow any access to the authors, albeit all the time knowing that your communications secretary was allowing access and providing information.
Yeah, but except for that, what else? Nothing.
Yes, if you take away all that's wrong with it, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Precisely. It's a very simple equation. Immoral behavior minus sin equals moral behavior. Yeah, it's kind of beautiful in its symbolism.
Yeah, and the symbols are simple enough for me to understand.
They are transparent.
Enough for defective brains.
To sway the masses.
Oh, haiku!
How did you get past security? Let's go to a question now from a Mr. Oliver Ointment, who's missed his appointment. He would like to know whether Brand Sussex has considered ways to keep Harry quiet when in public.
Yeah, it's come up in discussion, and we're looking into it.
Look, maybe I'm just being a bit slow, but why would Brand Sussex want to keep me quiet? I mean, I'm a key part of the branding.
Well, I think Mr. Ointment might have been referring to your recent comments about pandemic-related job losses.
What? I said they weren't all bad.
Yes, but did you not consider your comments might have been a red-hot poker in the eye to those less fortunate than you who have lost their jobs, being as it is that you are worth and paid millions to swan around?
Yeah, I considered it. I considered it good. But we've got to champion those who prioritise their mental health.
Look, it's a nuanced thing, right? You know, sometimes you've got to take a step back and really look at the root causes of mental health illness and disease. And in some scenarios, that's not possible when you're in full-time employment.
Oh, so mass unemployment might lead to better mental health.
Yeah, you know, that's what I'm hoping for, you know, fingers crossed.
Well, following on from that, Miss Lorraine L'Oreal, whose critics say hasn't been worth it for years, would like to know what people should do whilst at home, unemployed and living off the state to improve their mental health.
Well, yoga.
Oh, good one, good one. Let me see. Have we said yoga?
Yes, you have, Harry.
Yeah, and of course, you know, taking the time to properly be with oneself.
Oh, yeah. And, Jenga.
Excuse me?
Of course, it's nice to play some games, but really we should be using the bulk of that time productively, you know, spiritually productively. So, you know, writing poetry about your feelings, or, you know, spending a portion of your day asking yourself this question: who am I? You know, who am I? And it's really good to spend some time reading and watching some mainstream media so we can get a connection for what's really going on out there, you know? Ironically, the only time they ever get it wrong is when they're reporting on me. But except for that, you know, we should trust them completely. It's important because once you understand the evil that's out there in society, you can fix your mental health by becoming a cure for that evil, right? Yeah, and finally ditch freedom in that white supremacist trash heap where it belongs, and, you know, look for a more controlled solution. And by that point, you'll become such an activist, such a full-blooded activist for social causes, that you'll never want a job ever again. So yeah, you know, Harry's right.
Oh no. Oh, yeah, so there's Jenga and, yoga.
Samuel Bramwell from Stamwell would like to ask your opinion, Meghan, on the Jussie Smollett case.
Oh yeah, I remember where I was when I heard the news. I mean, oh my God. I mean, he was just wandering out at 2 a.m. to get a Subway sandwich, you know, as you do. And he was set upon by two men who attempted a modern-day lynching. I mean, they even poured bleach on his skin, which is the most overtly white supremacist thing possible.
Who I still mark the day every year with a small ceremony and a solemn promise to hate myself just that little bit more.
And I'm glad you pointed out some of the details of the case, Meghan. Unfortunately, of course, he was found to have made the whole story up, an outcome which should have been easily predicted when he claimed his assailants shouted, "This is MAGA country," in Chicago. That voted 84% Hillary Clinton in the 2016 presidential election.
Look, Jussie is in the process of appealing that verdict right now. So, you know, I think that we should...
Oh, well, I think it shows a shocking level of racial intolerance. That's what I think.
Okay, Harry. I mean, the important thing is...
Which is another slightly cleverer way of saying racism. Isn't that right, Meghan?
Yes, Harry. The important thing...
And it can wait.
Look, I think we need to let the appeal process go through, right? I mean, Juicy is sticking to his story without even a shred of hope or evidence. And I think that shows a lot about his character.
Oh, yes. A lot. A lot.
And what do you mean by that? A character capable of pulling off a callous hoax with designs at heightening an already inflated racial tension?
It shows us that he's an extremely determined individual and, passionate about seeing racist and homophobic hate crime brought to light so we can finally deal with it, as a society.
But does it not concern you that the guilty party in this particular case is Jussie himself, who paid 2 Nigerian bodybuilders to help him stage the event and then lied repeatedly?
Oh, I think that's being a little myopic.
No, he's right. And Samuel Bramwell is getting too fixated on one specific incident when really it's the story, it's the wider narrative that we should be properly concentrating on.
Oh, so it doesn't matter, therefore, that Jussie made the whole story up to stoke probable riots, murders, then leave a residue of bitter racial hatred once all the specifics of the incident have faded from memory, because he was pointing to a larger societal issue.
Yeah, he was just shedding a light on a very real poison that runs through the veins of society.
Right. But lynchings don't happen.
They used to.
They did, lest we forget.
Well, that leads us nicely onto a question from a Mr. Aubergine Walsh from Eggleton Plantway. He wants to know if you favour narrative over evidence because, as Jussie Smollett proved, it's easier to fabricate.
Racist.
We have a question here from a Mr. Percival Penguin who wears suits you can't bend in. And he asks, do mask mandates make it easier for you to go out incognito?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was out Christmas shopping recently, and my mask was on. No one could see me. No one could recognize me, and I could just, blend in without being swamped.
Buying presents for a certain somebody, were you?
Oh, well, I was actually picking up that ring. The one we saw. For me.
Yeah, of course. Who did you think I meant?
Well, another question from a listener at home, Mrs. Eileen Orchids, wife of Steve and mother of 4 kids. She wants to know, what sort of presents do you get each other and whether it's a balanced exchange?
Well, H and I have different, family traditions for Christmas, so we're trying to keep them both going. I mean, Harry's family tend to buy each other silly joke gifts, like I did that year with the Queen, and I got her a singing hamster or something. Oh my God, she nearly died laughing.
See what they threw away?
So I've carried on that family tradition by getting him joke gifts.
And the best one she did one year for a joke, the greatest joke present, she got me, nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, how out of the box is that? That's some seriously clever stuff. As Bruce Forsyth might say, it's satire.
And in my family, the Christmas tradition we had was that I would get more presents than anybody else.
Oh yeah, and I intend to keep it up. I've got a whole team of people working in shifts to get these presents in. Some at the shops, some online, making sure we have more presents than the previous year.
And how do you feel about this, Meghan? A little bit embarrassed? Do you try and prevent him from going mad each year so he doesn't get too stressed?
Oh, no. I love it. Bring it on, I say. It takes me back to my youth, actually, and some very fond memories I have there. In fact, the more presents I get, the more nostalgic I get, and it's lovely, really lovely. And besides, Harry's not stressed.
No. I said drop it off with a neighbour if nobody's there. No, we're doing an interview right now. We're royals, not delivery people. Well, a Mr. Charlie Chester from Cirencester would like to know whether you set limits on the expense of the gifts you exchange at Christmas?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's important to set limits,
Yeah, you've got to have boundaries.
As I say every year, never spend more than $1 million.
Oh, but never less than 500,000.
Yeah, I think that's, Harry's own personal lower limit,
No, it was in the prenup.
No, Harry, it wasn't.
Yeah, remember you got that $2,000 an hour lawyer to check the veracity before you let me slip the ring on your bony finger. Oh, it was such a romantic night.
Oh, indeed, Harry. I mean, you must be rushed off your feet trying to satisfy Meghan's swelling appetite with a cornucopia of expensive goodies this Christmas.
No, don't leave it on the doorstep. It's a Fabergé egg.
Mrs. Gwendolyn Guineafowl would like to know how you can justify earning £18 million from Spotify for only one episode of your podcast.
Well, it was a very good episode,
I think Mrs. Guineafowl might need to apply some deodorant because she's reeking of racism right now.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but he might have a point.
Well, I think Mrs. Guineafowl might have been referring to what Mr. Samuel Satsuma, who loves rice but hates tuna, asks in his question, being how can someone who preaches equity earn £300,000 per minute for a less than mediocre podcast?
Outrageous!
Well, he continues, lots of talented people, he says, work hard for nothing and get nowhere, whilst you get, if you only count the 37 minutes of content you produced, £486,000 per minute.
I'm just going to put a pair of sunglasses on right now because I am blinded by the sexism and the, what's that other one, Meghan, that's like sexism but makes you sound smarter?
Misogyny.
Misogyny on show here from Mr. Satsuma. Blinded.
I think what a lot of people miss is the greater message, We don't want to earn fantastic amounts of money. We want to share in a new destiny with the little people. But it just so happens that, thank God, you can't do that without earning the moolah.
Listen to our message, but stay out of our finances. Stay out.
And do you not think that the gross and absurd asymmetry between your talent and your income is jarring to those who you still happily lecture?
No, because...
I'll take this question, Meghan.
No, you won't.
No, of course not. Over to you, Meghan.
I think if they could properly see the power of the message that I'm pushing out there, then they would be arguing that I'm not getting paid enough. But they can't see it, which ironically is exactly the reason why we need to keep pushing the message.
Sounds like we're knocking on the door of the Markle paradox again. But does that also mean that once everyone sees the power of your message, there would be no reason left to pay you for anything?
Our talent?
Oh, yes, of course, Harry.
We're psychological and psychiatrical experts in, mental health.
We've already shown that we've got a lot of expertise about life, and we have much more, to be discovered.
And we've got my story to share. How I went from a young fool, wasting his life, seduced by the sweet fruits of happiness, instead of properly concentrating on my mental health. Meghan was my guide out of the wilderness, my Sherpa.
And we want these stories to help inspire people to transform their lives and, think exactly like we do.
Oh, so there are some subtle indoctrination intentions wrapped up in your efforts to influence the world.
Doctrination. Brainwashing. Yeah, definitely.
Dr. Daniel Nathaniel, who's rescued a spaniel, asks if the level 3 hosepipe ban in the Santa Barbara area is affecting the upkeep of your 8 acres of lush gardens and elaborate topiary.
Don't forget ornamental fountains, swimming pool, babbling brook, and a small waterfall.
Indeed. And is it causing you an upkeep issue?
Is it? I mean, they've got all these codes and regulations. Can't use your hose pipe within 48 hours of rainfall. Can't wash your car without a shut-off nozzle. I mean, don't get me wrong. Never washed a car in my life.
Yeah, but you did try pressure washing the terraced once.
Oh, yeah. I was going through a DIY phase. Didn't last long.
But how about you, Meghan? Do you like doing things around the house? Oh, no, God, no. I mean, it's hard enough just trying to get things done. I mean, organizing the maids and the cleaner people and the security and the gardeners, you know. After my yoga and my issuing of instructions,
We all get some.
I need some me time, which I actually like to spend, in the gardens and around the grounds. And this hosepipe ban could really affect the lushness of the flora.
It might even knock the babbling brook out of rhythm if there's insufficient water. Or reduce those cherubs on the water fountains to spitting pitiful dribbles from their puckered lips. I can't even think about it.
And I can't recharge and replenish my spiritual energy if everything around me isn't just perfect and exactly as I want it. Well, that leads us nicely onto a question by Petulia Pringle, who's 6 months single. She wants to know, now that you're no longer an actress nor a royal family representative and have learnt the hard way how difficult it is to write books, what is it that you actually do?
Yeah, what doesn't she do, more like?
Well, then I'll paraphrase the question. What would you define your occupation as, your chief vocation? I still want to write books, because I think I have a lot more to say, particularly to children. And I enjoy my voiceover work. And of course, our Spotify podcast. Oh yes, the one you've released 37 minutes of content for in a year.
That's the one.
Yeah, and I still want to, and I'm still concentrating on Archwell and the foundation to make sure it's pushing forward and progressing in the right way, making a real life difference to those who are disadvantaged. And most importantly, to us and our popularity.
Which has been a struggle.
And of course, I'm a full-time mom.
With access to nannies.
But if I was to look inside myself and sincerely ask what my chief occupation is, I would say light bringer.
Or truth singer.
Light bringer or truth singer.
You've brought so much light to my life, Meghan. I'm currently up in flames.
Yes, well, it's lucky you didn't get burnt. Hey, Harry. Mr. Gavin Gannett from Thanet says, there's a tiny cat sanctuary in Port Talbot. Oh, how nice. I love cats.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
And in the year of 2020, it raised somewhere between £37,900 and £44,450. Oh, good for them. Which is more than the declared income for Archwell Foundation for that year, standing at just under £37,000. Well, I prefer dogs.
Cats scratching up your furniture, walking on the kitchen tops.
Mr. Gannett has included many more examples of modest charities that have exceeded the annual donations to Archwell. His point being, if we were to read between the lines, is that your foundation is a disaster. No, not at all. We're just very cautious about who we accept donations from, right? I mean, if we weren't, then we'd be quite rightly criticized for accepting money from unpalatable beneficiaries. Oh, like the jewelry you received. Yeah, like him. I mean, if Archwell was to accept dodgy donations like that, we'd be under scrutiny. So, we're extremely cautious. I mean, very, very cautious where we accept money from. And because of that, we don't raise as much as we otherwise would.
Hi, yeah, okay. And how much would you like to donate to the Archwell Foundation? Oh, $10,000. Oh, excellent. How kind. How generous of you. Okay, let me get a bit more information. So you're a family of 6 and... Oh, 2 boys and 2 girls. Oh, it's excellent equity there. I like that. And have any of your children got freckles? Oh, I'm sorry. In that case, I don't think this is going to work.
We go through a very extreme vetting process.
No, still no. No, honestly, you can keep your money. Okay, you can keep your money. Oh, sorry, where were we?
We were talking about how the very low donations to your foundation might indicate a failure in your message.
Oh, well, that's because we go through a very strict vetting regime.
Well, we've seen. Yeah, I think we can all agree that the amount of money I'm paid personally is of greater significance than the amount of money received by Archwell.
$100,000 donation? Oh, that's very good of you. Okay then, and are you two married? Civil partnership? One's a pangender, one's a genderqueer. Awesome. Have you got any kids? Splendid. Okay, and what are their names? Ooh, no, I don't think this is going to work, actually. No, we're out. We're out.
The bottom line is that we bring a lot to the world. Well, on a different note, Mrs. Philippa Flyover from Heathrow asks what you consider to be your biggest success last year. Is it your whiny tell-all with Oprah, your degenerate Ellen DeGeneres interview which had you squatting and drinking breast milk, the weak reception of your book, Meghan, The Bench, the pitiful 40-40 initiative that was in line with Meghan's 40th birthday, or your disastrous New York City visit, replete with Meghan reading her own book to school children in Harlem and Harry talking to a live audience of people and slipping into a slight American accent?
I think I'd say pretending to drink the breast milk. And you, Meghan?
Mr. Albert Banana, who's talented but must try harder, has emailed the show to ask Harry, why have you decided to take legal action against Her Majesty's government?
Simple. I want what's owed to me. I want my security when I'm back in the UK. So I'm taking them to court to make sure justice is served.
Well, Mr. Banana continues, adding, surely you knew that retiring from the royal family and the duties, then moving to West Coast America would have consequences.
Look, fair enough, but this shouldn't be one of them. So I'm pushing back against their intolerance by refusing to tolerate their refusal to pay.
You know, Harry was born royal, right? I mean, he didn't ask for that.
Oh, I see where she's going with this. Amazing.
He was thrust into the public eye, so he can't just have his protection revoked.
Oh, amazing.
But the royal family have never really been behind us, right? You know, ever since we got married in that musky old church in Windsor. Oh, you're referring to St. George's Chapel, which you quite odiously asked to be purified with Airwick plugins in a moment of quite incredible crassness. Yeah, that one. And the media, too. I think they've always had a problem with me, and that problem was probably twofold. You know, A, I'm a woman of color, and B, I'm not of royal rank before I met Harry. So, yeah, I've always stood out, and I think I've always been an easy target for them. Oh, you mean the media whose endless fawning over your worldwide spectacle of a wedding drove many of us sick, and whose attitude only changed when you became genuinely unpalatable?
Yeah, what date do you have for that? I remember it happening, but I forgot to record it in my diary.
Look, I think the important thing to remember is that Harry and I are global superstars, you know? We didn't mean to be. I mean, we didn't want to be. Well, I did want to be. I can't say I didn't want to be, because I did, but only reluctantly. Look, I never realized that marrying the grandson of the Queen of England, you know, a prince, was going to propel me into this fame. And, you know, people are quite fond of saying that I'm only famous because I'm royalty. You know, fair enough. And it's not my fault, is it? Pay for my security.
Yeah, but we want our money for other things, like savings and investments.
That's perfectly reasonable, Harry. Although Mr. Herbert Turbot, whose favourite sweet is sherbet, asks a question which is kind of connected. Why have you opened up numerous accounts in the low-tax state of Delaware? You shouldn't always believe everything you hear, right?
Yeah, we're looking to expand our bank portfolio. And shut up. We're getting in with some real movers and shakers, you know, cozying up to them and pretending we have talent.
Oh, not pretending, Harry. Presenting. We're presenting our talent.
Yeah, presenting our talent in the medium of pretense. give me strength.
Mr. Malcolm Marshmallow, who's a sweet but fluffy fellow, asks, how do you feel after winning an NAACP award for Distinguished Public Service?
Oh, it was a wonderful event, and we're so happy to have finally received an award from the NAACP.
It took a lot of emails.
There was no emails at all. We received the award for recognition of our influence, which I admit has been harder to come by than I originally thought it would. But to be perfectly honest, in my heart, I always know that I'm right about everything I say. So,
You try questioning her.
Well, to help those whose minds are discombobulated by the idea of you two winning an award for public service, let's go through a question from a Mr. Frederick Finbar Flutter, who has a problem with his stutter. He asks, was it a coincidence that you, Harry, said Meghan and I share a commitment to service in your speech, leaving out the phrase public?
I've got literally no idea what you're on about.
A situation you find yourself in more than most.
yeah, but surely it's obvious what we mean by service.
It's as clear as crystal gale to me.
Well, not necessarily, because without the word public in front of it, you could be referring to any type of service. Public, military, charitable, self.
Oh, I think it's safe to say that we came from vastly different backgrounds, but that we were brought together for a reason.
Well, that's almost word for word what you said that night, Harry.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say that we came from vastly different backgrounds, but we were brought together, for a reason.
Yeah, you said that once.
It's because he really, really means what he says that he repeats himself, It's a little quirk of his that I've, learned to, tolerate.
Thanks.
Well, you also said that you had a responsibility to confront injustice and a belief that the most often overlooked are the most important to listen to. Are you not concerned that your media persona is becoming a collage of compressed platitudes that merely invites further ridicule?
I'm concerned about the media and the way it plays down our achievements.
And we should sue them for that too.
Well, Harry, you've achieved nothing except a sheltered military career and a GCSE in physical education. And you, Meghan, have gone from an underwhelming actress to an incapable duchess to an ineffective, ill-conceived and ever more ignored icon for global change.
True.
Mrs. Heather Honey, whose mood is sunny because she's made of money, asks what you thought of the royal-themed float at this year's New Orleans Mardi Gras.
We never saw it, I don't think. I don't recall.
We were outraged, showing me emerging from a lavatory. Oh no, don't recall seeing it actually.
Oh, well, you were almost impossibly accurate in your guess, Harry, that you emerged from a lavatory, whilst you, Meghan, were depicted as wearing a sash saying Windsor Winer.
Sure it didn't say winner?
No, it was definitely Winer, Harry.
Oh, that's ridiculous. When did my Meghan ever complain about anything? Even once.
Dr. Jackson, when you've been doing this as long as we have, when you've been under the scrutiny of the spotlight, constantly, you begin to see these acts of hatred, these acts of hate for exactly what they are. Genuinely valid, albeit occasionally vulgar criticisms? No, they're just projections of hate against a vision of a better world, a fairer world, a newer world. A world that might take some of their power away, right? Power that's stored, that they get from the institutions and the structures of society, And they spit venom at me for suggesting that we should fix some of these inequalities.
Yeah, but not all of them, of course. You'll be keeping your exquisite lifestyle evidently unequal to those that you champion.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's necessary, I'm afraid.
Markle's law, but let's not go there. But do you not think, Meghan, it's too much of a coincidence for you to be accused, independently, by so many different people of the same negative traits, in this case, whining, for there not to be some truth to it?
No, there's no truth in it at all. I mean, all these people who independently, accuse me of the same crimes and have the same criticisms, I mean, they're all plugged in to the same system of bigotry. They're all getting fed from its foundations. So, there's a lot of literature on this, actually, written by real experts.
Experts.
The basic idea is that the attacks on me, on me, aren't independent at all. They all spring from the same source, which is the societal untruths and lies that have been spread. They've been spread and spouted and accepted by civilization for ages, centuries.
Eons, maybe.
An eon refers to 500 million years, Harry. 500 million years.
Well, who knows?
And when these lies and untruths are questioned, certain people from a certain part of the political spectrum jump on me as the light bringer.
In this case, my Meghan.
To extinguish any chance of challenging the ways that we have behaved collectively in the past.
Which leads us nicely onto a question sent in from Theodore Toffey from the district of Roffey. Do either of you consider yourselves laughably deluded?
No.
No.
That's crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Crazy. Mr. Adrian Adnoid from a town called Malice wants to know what you thought about the truckers protesting in Canada.
I'm just glad that Justin Trudeau manned up and took some action.
Look, if a bunch of racist insurrectionalists take over a city, right, it's the Prime Minister's job to restore peace. I mean, yeah, go after the perpetrators and their Trumpian supporters. Freeze their bank accounts.
Yeah, go after the moolah.
It's one of the great benefits of the digital world in terms of the economy and in terms of finances that, we can directly go after the bank accounts and the financial security of those who choose to support, like intolerance.
And what would you say to the criticism that the word intolerance is such a polluted and nebulous term that it merely allows the whimsical tyranny of talentless twerps like Justin Trudeau?
Justin's a good guy, all right? A little bit weak, but he's learned to toughen up, like me.
Yeah, and he's so handsome.
Well, he's not everyone's cup of tea.
He'll always do what needs to be done, and he's, really so very handsome.
Well, I actually think his face is looking a bit puffier recently.
I mean, Justin is a poster boy for what a better future, for what a better world looks like, He's the exact opposite of Donald Trump, He does the right things, he says the right things, and he looks the right way.
Well, I think he looks like a drinker.
Don't get jealous, Harry.
I haven't got anything to be insecure about.
No, of course not.
Well, Melanie Mellon, a felon from Devon, wants to know if you have responses to Tucker Carlson, who called you and Harry a fake Duchess, and brain dead.
Hey!
And to your former friend, Piers Morgan, who suggested that Spotify should tear up your contract.
Well, Piers Morgan has always been a first-class meanie, but I can't say I know much about this Tucker Carlson fellow.
Yes, you do. Remember? He's the epitome of evil.
Oh, yes, sir. Now I remember.
Well, my response to Tucker would be that my title is the Duchess of Sussex, so how can I be a fake Duchess?
Oh, checkmate, Mr. Carlson.
Yes, but he might reply by saying you're only officially a Duchess by dint of marriage to a lesser royal, whom you fled the scene with only 2 years after your extortionately expensive wedding.
Yeah.
And Piers Morgan can say whatever he wants. I mean, what do I care? He hasn't even got a Spotify contract. I mean, he's just acting out, a vendetta against us, against me.
Hell hath no fury like a Morgan scorned.
He's just this fading news presenter journalist thingy, and I'm the Duchess of Sussex, so it kind of speaks for itself.
Right, yes. But have you ever actually been to Sussex?
Where's that?
Mrs. Penelope Poles, who has a problem with moles, asks what you two think about an American poll that put Kate Duchess of Cambridge, as twice as popular as you, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex?
You know what? I completely ignored it. Right?
Well, do you trust polling?
Good point, Harry. No, I don't at all. So on that, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, I think it came out of the Sun newspaper on the 29th of January.
Yeah, we've got it pinned to a corkboard back at Mission Control. It's like a timeline of all the attacks on us. It's amazing.
Yeah, first of all, I'd say, I'm not looking to win a popularity contest.
Oh, I thought that was exactly what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
No, I just want everyone to feel love in their hearts, I want my ideas to flourish. It doesn't matter about me. I just want my ideas to get out there and help create a better world, It doesn't matter whether I'm popular or not.
Yes, but your ideas won't flourish if you're not very popular. Surely, by definition.
Yeah. I think we need to learn to look at things a different way, Dr. Jackson.
Cobalt, please.
Oh, no. And we need to make sure that we, take a fresh angle on things, look at things from a fresh angle, preferably one that doesn't make my Meghan look bad.
Yes, but you can't redefine words, concepts, and the pervading logical structure that supports it. Otherwise, it's irrational.
No wonder you're failing to see things in a new light, from a fresh perspective. You're still using reason, which is little more than an invention by white supremacist bigot homophobes like hundreds of years ago.
Well, we might as well research Hitler's views on preventing anti-Semitism.
Well, your feelings have been made perfectly clear about the poll published in the Sun newspaper and about rational thought generally. But as I fear us galloping towards the cliff edge and a soulless plunge into the Markle paradox, I think we'll go to a lighter question here from a Mrs. Marion Marquis, who can't swim but can ski. And she asks, do you enjoy a real log fire?
Oh, I adore a real log fire, cozying up with the ones I love, who are all fighting to be the one sitting on my lap.
I bet those beagles don't stand a chance, Harry.
Well, there is 2 of them, and they can be snappy. Well, a real log fire, Meghan, might have helped that night that you took home the wax model from Madame Tussauds and left me there. Oh, how we laughed. I know, we've mentioned the story before.
Yeah, I remember, Harry. You joked about Meghan only realising 2 days later.
Oh, trust you. How did you know we were joking?
Spooky.
It was just over 72 hours.
72 terrifying hours.
Patrick Prophylactic, who is a practicing chiropractic, asks, why haven't you gone as far as Neil Young and Joni Mitchell by insisting Spotify remove your podcast in protest of Joe Rogan's hosting of Vaccine Heretics?
Well, there's actually a really interesting and funny story about this, but I can't remember any of the details, so I'm going to let Meghan handle this. Meghan?
I think that's sensible. We've made our position on the dangerous misinformation spewed by the Joe Rogan show, right? We've made that clear. We've made our position on that clear, We've written to Spotify.
I am so sensitive to misinformation. Even talking about it makes me come out in a rash.
Well, Mrs. Dorothy Despise, who makes sinister eyes but wonderful mince pies, wonders whether it's because you don't want to jeopardize your obscene payout from Spotify.
Oh, no, we've already got that money. It's future money we don't want to jeopardize.
Harry speaking is becoming a real problem.
Oh, what's that, my buttercup?
Meghan said that your speaking, Harry, in the most general sense, is becoming troublesome.
What? I thought that speaking my thoughts was one of the best things about me.
It is, Harry. It's like the more often you do it, the less special it becomes.
Oh, I see.
No, you don't.
No, not really.
Well, back to the issue of the money.
Oh, yeah, the moolah.
But we have got to protect our financial situation, We got to weigh up all the options now that we're a growing family.
Yeah, struggling to live on tens of millions.
Right, and it can't really be viewed and judged properly from the outside. So I think that Patrick Prophylactic and Dorothy Despise's questions need to be viewed, in that context, from that light, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, Patrick Slap a Fat Chick and Dorothy's Big Eyes need to check their privilege. Racists. Probably.
Well, yes, get that probably in there, Harry, Wouldn't want to slander anyone, would you?
Yeah, still a lot of speaking going on here, Harry.
Oh, let's go to another question here. This one's from a Mrs. Miranda Veranda, who's flown over Rwanda. Is your hair getting shorter and thinner, Harry?
No.
Mrs. Prudence Endurance, whose son sells insurance, asks, what are your favourite country and western songs?
Yeah, I wouldn't really say that country and western is my favourite genre.
Oh, it reminds us too much of those freedom-loving, Trump-voting, gun-toting rednecks that we do our very best to avoid.
But if I had to say one, it would probably be, what was it called? Oh yeah, If I Shot You When I Wanted To, I'd be out by now.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one.
My favourite country and western song? Well, I think it would be that one by Wayne Carter called My Wife Ran Off With My Best Friend and I Sure Do Miss Him. And all the things we used to do, from cotton fields to fishing.
Would you consider the Eagles country and western?
Oh, that's a very deep philosophical question, Meghan. I think we might need to do some shoulder tapping before we can work that out.
And not now, Harry.
Better put those things back in their holsters, Harry.
Because I really like their song Lion Eyes.
Oh, and you love that Tammy Wynette number, Stand By Your Man.
And music's a really essential part of our lives,
I even write songs.
Oh, don't start with that. He wrote a couple of lines to this song, Get What's Coming to Me.
Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me.
It drives you insane.
Yeah, I can believe.
Those are my bits. This is my stuff. I need some more. Ain't got enough. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me.
Oh, you've written some more.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think I do in my office all day? Sleep.
Well, every time I've walked in there, you've been asleep.
Yeah, well, I do sleep in there quite a bit, to be fair. But anyway, all together now. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. You know the words. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me. Get what's coming to me.
Well, another musical-based question comes from Mr. Edward E. N. Barnes, who has shorter than average arms. He wants to know, do you ever dance together?
No.
Another question here from a Marigold Mariachi who works for Saatchi & Saatchi. What did you make of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at this year's Oscars?
Well, I say good on him for protecting his little bald wife's good name.
I think it's important at first to say that we don't condone violence of any kind, period.
Well, that's excellent to hear.
Violence is not just a byproduct of toxic masculinity. It's also the root cause of it. And violence has no place in a happy society.
Well, I agree with that last part because it makes sense. And I agree with the first part because I'm a communist through and through.
It's the only way to go.
So it would seem.
But with all that being said, I'm still glad that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. I mean, he insulted his wife. I mean, come on.
Socked him one, right in the kisser. Did you notice he really got his hip into it?
Right, but your assessment of the Will Smith situation clashes with the belief you've just stated that we don't condone violence of any kind. That was certainly violence of some kind.
You're being far too literal, man. You gotta chill.
Look, the violence being perpetrated at that precise moment was from Chris Rock onto Jada Smith. I mean, a vicious verbal assault. I mean, just because she had an affair with her son's best friend doesn't mean that she's fair game for G.I. Jane jokes. You know?
Yeah. I didn't get it.
You know, Will's slap was representative of a pushback against violence and a violent culture, particularly against women.
It was a non-violent slap.
But the joke itself was another example of aggressive misogyny played out in a male-dominated white supremacist society.
But Chris Rock is black.
Do you really think that Chris would have told that joke if there wasn't a whole load of white people ready to laugh?
Yeah, despite how idiotic that sounded, Harry makes a really good point. You know, Chris Rock might be black, but the world, the institutions, the systems, the narratives, they belong to white people.
If Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars is an example of white supremacy, it just shows us how vigilant we need to be.
Yeah, well said.
Trust no one.
We have a question here from Scotland and a Mrs. Sylvia McSaunders, who hates double entendres. She asks why you thought it okay to travel to Holland for the start of the Invictus Games, but not to the UK for your grandfather's memorial.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, I've got a double entendre for Mrs. McSaunder.
I better take this question. The great thing about being us, right, is that you haven't got to logically justify anything, you know? You can just kind of make it up as you go along.
Freestyle.
To the untrained eye, this may appear as though it's just firing of pot shots, you know, callous pot shots at the late Prince Philip and the royal family as a whole by attending the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games, but not attending the memorial service for Prince Philip. But it's not. It's not.
Oh, what is it then?
It's, you know, perfect. You know, it's loving. It's lovingly perfect.
It's perfectly loving. And lovingly perfect. And perfectly loving. Do you see what I did there? Do you see what I did there?
Yeah.
Yes.
I switched them around.
You sure did, Harry.
Yeah, we get it, Harry.
Perfectly loving became lovingly perfect.
When you say the untrained eye, what type of training are you referring to?
Are you interested in signing up for a course?
We're talking about a viewpoint which is, you know, unshackled by the burden of logic. And, you know, once you're trained to see this new viewpoint, you know, you'll realize that what we did was loving and compassionate and not in any way malicious.
It's like training for the Navy SEALs, but the spiritual kind.
And if you still think, you know, what we did was malicious, then it just proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you need more training, you know?
You know, we really should think about that, Meghan. Start a course that studies your teachings. You know, you could train them.
Well, you know, it's possible, you know, something for the future.
Yeah. You know, the government would probably grant student loans within the year.
Really? Do you think?
On it.
Yeah, get that down.
Oh, right. Well, please don't ever say I suggested that, because that was a terrible mistake on my part.
He's so modest.
You have been awfully animated since you came back from the break, Harry.
Oh, yeah. You know what this is, don't you?
A spectacle?
No. 7 macchiatos.
We have a question here from Irene Polystyrene, who's looking for a job if anyone's hiring. She asks, do you have any other hobbies besides sanctimonious behaviour?
Oh, no, it's sanctimony mainly.
No, Harry. I personally love, yoga and self-reflection. General self-reflection.
Self-reflection? Interesting.
Yeah, I'm an interesting person. I don't have hobbies like bowling or horseback riding or golf.
I'm pretty good at golf. I once beat Tiger Woods.
Really?
Yeah, I scored 160 odd, and he only scored like 71.
You're not quite sure you've got to grips with the scoring system there, Harry.
Anyway, back to me.
Well, of course. You mentioned earlier that self-reflection was one of your hobbies, Meghan. But there'll be many at home wondering just how self-reflection can be a hobby at all.
Look, after a long, hard day, I can be sitting on a lot of, negative energy, negative emotion. And what self-reflection does for me is it helps me sit back and work out where it comes from,
Oh, so a self-critical approach to your own behaviour.
Ha! Well, kinda, but no, not at all, ironically. Let me explain.
Oh, this is going to be so ironic.
Yeah, the only criticism I could find of myself was that I was overly self-critical.
Wow.
Well, that was even more ironic than all of the examples in that Alanis Morissette song. What was it called?
I am very self-critical, so I've resolved through proper self-reflection to stop putting myself down, and to bolster my confidence by knowing that my truth is exactly the same as the truth.
Smothering herself in mental hugs, basically.
Well, speaking of irony, I've actually got 148 emails from around the world, all asking the exact same question, put here by Dave from London. Have you ever considered being more self-critical?
Oh, my Meghan is so self-critical, she sometimes believes that she's a washed-up, lesser-than-average actress with an unduly inflated ego and little to offer to the world.
Incredible, isn't it? We have a question here from a Mr. Herbert Havlin, who was good at the shot but preferred the javelin. He asks if you were shocked and or disappointed not to be invited onto the balcony at the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Trooping of the Colour ceremony.
Yeah, I think it's for the best. It's her day, right? And if we were up there, it could deflect some attention away from, Grandma.
You were furious, as was I.
No, Harry. If you remember, I said I think it's for the best. I was going to suggest it myself, but the Queen just beat me to it.
Huh? Well, Meghan, some recollections may vary. So you weren't shocked then or disappointed when you found out you'd been excluded?
Oh, no. And we're still going, of course, It might be a little bit awkward at times, but, I'll do my best, I'll do my best.
Yeah, after being cast off with the other rejects.
Well, Prince Andrew won't be on the balcony either, of course.
Well, there has been talk, actually, a suggestion that Andrew, Harry, and myself make a separate balcony appearance, so we can, greet our fans properly.
Oh, I suppose you were far too principled to even consider such an idea.
Surprisingly not.
No, I thought the idea had some merit to it, Yeah, it would have been a little bit wounding not to be up there with the Queen and the rest of the royal family to celebrate properly. But, a lot of our fans, legions of our fans, would have traveled hundreds, maybe thousands of miles just to get a glimpse of us. So, yeah, I would have endured that disrespect to properly honor my fans, our fans, my fans.
So you're saying you would have actually stood on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, just you, Harry, and the widely reviled Prince Andrew in a separate appearance?
Well,
he refused.
Sorry?
It's so unfair. He said he didn't want to be seen with us.
Well, no, Harry. I mean, he didn't say those words, you know.
No, but I looked up every single one of those words his lawyer wrote in that letter. And he was definitely saying something along the lines of, he didn't want to be seen with us.
Yeah, but Harry, what have I said? What have I told you about looking at serious documents?
That I'm not to.
Yeah, and what did I say would happen if you did it again?
I don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
You two okay?
You got to be firm but fair.
It's the only way I'll learn.
We have a question here from a Mrs. Prunella Prune, who purrs along with the cycles of the moon. She asks Harry, do you realise how woefully out of touch with reality you appeared when making sure your grandmother, the Queen, had the right people around her?
Well, first of all, if your name's Prunella, what on earth are you doing marrying someone called Mr. Prune? And secondly, what is the matter with going to make sure your grandmother's got the right people around her?
Well, perhaps she kept her own name.
Well, in that case, what on earth were her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Prune, doing naming her Prunella?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Besides, not many women at that time were sufficiently empowered to make a bold statement like, keeping their own name after marriage.
Well, things are different now, thank God. I took Meghan's name. I'm now Harry Meghan Markle Windsor.
And I don't think that Prunella was implying that the act was in any way sinister, Harry, but rather, as she continues, it was delusional to believe that you had any influence on the matter. It's hard to believe that your petulant outbursts and conniving tactics have had an endearing impact on the Queen.
Oh no, nothing's changed. We're just the same as we always were. It doesn't matter how often I slate the royal family. Nothing will change that.
They have a very special relationship.
So you expect Mrs. Prune to accept that your relationship with the Queen has remained untarnished by your behaviour over the last couple of years?
Well,
Families go through ups and downs. Harry's been on a downward trend
a bearish market.
with his family since,
I met you.
yeah, right. Since about the time he met me.
Almost hard to believe it's a coincidence.
Almost, but it certainly definitely is a coincidence. Science says so.
Right. Well, Mr. Daniel Didgeridoo from the mountains of Kathmandu says, Harry thinks we're stupid if he's asking us to believe he has any influence left within the royal family. Tough words there, Harry, and I wasn't sure whether to ask that question or not.
Not a problem, because yeah, I do think they're stupid.
No, you don't, Harry.
Yeah, I do.
No, and that is a stupid thing to say.
But why, Meghan?
Well, you're not the sharpest. Come on. You eat a banana with a spoon, Harry.
Yeah, but I like the smooth cuts.
So you're not really in a position to be calling people stupid?
No, suppose not.